Scroll through your feed for 5 minutes, and it's obvious. Content is not king. Content is chaos. Everywhere you look, it's endless posts, endless videos, endless noise. So what cuts through the chaos? Story. Story is king because story brings order. And you already know this. It's why we connect to movies, binge shows, share podcasts. Stories are what we remember, what we repeat, what moves us. But most stories vanish. They don't stick because order alone doesn't make you memorable. Just telling a story isn't enough. Beginners drown in chaos. Better creators tell stories, but the best creators, they tell stories with something more: the fingerprint. And once you understand it, your content won't just stand out. It will actually connect, because stories connect where content doesn't. And here's why. The real chaos for me on YouTube wasn't the gear or the editing. It was the indecision. I started out my YouTube journey making videos about Walt Disney World and other places around Orlando that I was visiting. And it worked. I knew the parks and I loved creating that kind of content. But then I started law school, and I knew that with my first year of law school and all of the rigors that would come with it, I really couldn't keep up with creating the kind of content consistently that I wanted to. So I switched lanes. I started making law school videos and videos about the law instead, because I thought I was going to be an attorney, and I figured there would be value in building a brand around the law, whether it be law school content or content about the law. But at the end of my first year of law school, I actually realized that I didn't even want to be an attorney. And so there really wasn't value in having content about law school or the law and building a brand around that. So once again, I shifted. I changed my content, but this time I went to helping people create better vlogs on YouTube, because that was the type of content, the style of content that I love to make. So I figured, why not try to help people with that? Now, somewhere along this content creation journey, I had a chance to go and work at Think Media. And during that time, I got the opportunity to sit down with Heather and go through all of my content and what I was doing. And I honestly just remember Heather saying to me, like, Chris, what are you doing? Like, everything was all over the place, and I really wasn't talking to anybody on YouTube. So after looking at my channel, we decided that I should go back to creating Walt Disney World content and helping people with their best trip ever to Walt Disney World. And so I did, and I committed, and I made that type of content consistently for over 2 years. Every one of those decisions along the way felt right at the time. But living through it was absolute chaos, because every pivot came with the same question on repeat: what should I even be making? That's the heart for me of content chaos: the endless second guessing, the constant pivoting, and the never ending feeling that maybe you're creating the wrong thing. And even after all that indecision, when I thought I had finally solved it, when I committed and started making Walt Disney World content consistently for over 2 years, I ran into a new problem. Because on paper, it looked like it was working. I was getting views, but I wasn't building any connection. Most of my views were from new people, not subscribers. Comments were non-existent. And here's the kicker: because there was no connection, no comments, no engagement, no community, it fed right back into the chaos. I started questioning all over again. Am I even making the right kind of content? That's when I realized the problem wasn't just indecision about what to make. It was the fact that even when I did make something, I wasn't telling stories. And remember, stories restore order to the chaos that is content. Just like Walt Disney said, that's what we storytellers do. We restore order with imagination. We instill hope again and again. And as creators, that's what we are. We are storytellers. And it's our job to instill hope, to restore order through the stories that we tell. And that's exactly what was missing in my content. I was making videos, but I wasn't restoring order. I wasn't instilling hope because I wasn't telling stories. Even when we do tell stories, they can still blur together. Think about movies. Two films can have almost the exact same plot. Hero rises, faces failure, makes a comeback. One is completely forgettable. The other sticks with you for years. The difference isn't the plot, it's the fingerprint of the people telling it. The director's vision, the actor's choices, the way it's shot, written, performed. And it's the same with us. Every founder, every creator shares the same story arcs: failure, success, struggle, comeback. But what makes your story unforgettable is the fingerprint inside it, your experience, your perception, and your perspective. But the fingerprint isn't some abstract idea. It's something you can actually break down and find in your stories. In fact, let's go back to the YouTube story I just told, because the fingerprint is right there inside it, and the first place you see it is in experience. Experience is the raw material of your story, and it's made up of three things: context, the setting, the environment, the background that you were in; circumstances, the situation you were facing, the challenge or opportunity at hand; and choice, the decision you made in that moment. So let's apply that to my YouTube story. The context: I was chasing this YouTube dream of building a brand on YouTube while going through law school and later while working with Think Media. The circumstances: I kept hitting walls. Law school took away my time and didn't allow me to make the content that I was making, so I had to pivot. I didn't want to be an attorney, and I realized that the content that I had been making under the idea that I would be an attorney wasn't valuable anymore, so I had to pivot. I wanted to keep vlogging and I wanted to teach other people how to vlog, but I really wasn't talking to anybody and I didn't have any authority in it, so I had to pivot. Then I went back and reset with my Disney content and helping people with their best trip ever to Walt Disney World. Now comes the choice, and every time I hit a wall, I pivoted. I switched my content over and over until eventually I did commit to creating this Walt Disney World content for over 2 years. That was my experience. And even though the plot, trying to find your lane on YouTube, is common, no one else had that exact mix of context, circumstances, and choices. But experience by itself is just the facts. What makes a story come alive is how it felt in the moment, and that's perception. Perception is how it felt while it was happening, your raw interpretation in the moment. For me, every pivot came with the same perception: chaos, second guessing, feeling like I was falling behind. And even when I did commit to Disney and creating Walt Disney World content for over 2 years, my perception didn't get easier. I still felt the frustration of seeing views come in without real engagement. The comments weren't there, the connection wasn't there, and my perception in that moment was doubt. Am I making the right kind of content? That's perception. It's what makes the story human, what makes people feel it. But if you stop at perception, your story is just emotions on the table. The real power comes when you step back and ask, what did it all mean? That is perspective. Perspective is the meaning you discover when you look back on it. Now, looking back, my perspective on that season is this: all that niche hopping and even the lack of connection was pointing me toward the real lesson. It wasn't about picking the perfect topic. It wasn't about being consistent for consistency's sake. The reason my content wasn't connecting was because I wasn't telling stories. That's the perspective. The meaning I can only see now looking back and having some distance from that experience. And when you put all three together, the facts, the feelings, and the meaning, you get your fingerprint. So that's the fingerprint right there inside that one YouTube story. The experience, the context, circumstances, and choices I lived through. The perception, the feelings of chaos and doubt in the moment. And the perspective, the lesson I only learned by looking back after having that distance from the experience. That's the fingerprint, and no one else has that exact mix. So when you tell stories through that fingerprint, you don't just cut through the chaos, your content actually connects. It's not about having the best gear, the perfect edit, or even the wildest stories. It's about the part no one else can copy: your experience, your perception, and your perspective. That's what makes your stories unforgettable. So here's my challenge for you. Drop a comment and tell me one story you could share with your fingerprint on it that would actually connect. And remember, there's a great big beautiful tomorrow.